amazing grace of God. It is an invasion of the sovereign love of God, penetrating the gap of darkness with the overwhelming power of His marvelous light. It bridges the gap between man and God. Take a journey through the amazing grace of God with your host, Sarah Abraham, as she shares the compelling stories of those who walked in His covenant and have overcome by the amazing grace of God. Join us weekdays this fall for Amazing Grace with Sarah Abraham.
Welcome to Amazing Grace. I'm your host, Sarah Abraham. All of us at Destiny TV are delighted you have joined in with us today. It is your overwhelming response that enables us to bring you amazing stories and journeys about individuals who have overcome challenging situations and who have put others' interest ahead of us, who has made someone's life better because of their sacrifices. And we've had several shows involving adoption, blended families, children who were adopted, parents who adopted children who were not easily adoptable. And we have such an amazing woman with us today, not only amazing but beautiful, Amanda Boyd, who did such a wonderful thing of adopting 3 amazing children. Amanda, welcome to Amazing Grace.
Thank you very much.
Tell us, how did this journey start?
It actually started well whenever I was a little girl. I always knew, God always placed it on my heart from a very young age that I was going to adopt. Didn't know if I'd ever have my own biological children, but I knew I was going to adopt. And throughout my journey, as far as just my own childhood traumas that I went through, that I believe, God allowed me to experience in order to be able to reach children who have also gone through traumatic experiences.
Were you adopted?
I was not adopted, but I was sexually abused as a child, and then also grew up in a home with a father who was paranoid schizophrenic, unmedicated. So between those two things, it was a difficult childhood, and just being able to overcome that. And then when I was in college, I also volunteered for a shelter as well with children who had been, taken out of their homes. And then from there, I volunteered. Once I got married with my husband, we volunteered at another organization in Alvin called Kids Harbor, which also has, children who are boards of the state. And then finally, we decided to go ahead and pursue the adoption of our own children. We first, got licensed and had them in our homes, and it took us several years to actually be able to adopt them.
So it's a process.
It is a process.
And there's
yeah.
so many children, waiting out there to be adopted, but sometimes the states and the agencies take their own time to place these children.
It wasn't that, actually. It was because the biological mother, actually, she appealed the termination, and that's what caused it. There's only 1% of terminations that are contested, and my husband and I and our children happen to fall in that 1%. So, and that's the reason why it took so long.
You're an educator.
Yes,
You're
yes,
a
ma'am.
teacher.
Uh-huh.
So tell us a little bit about teaching.
Well, I mean, I loved teaching, absolutely adored it. And, I like those rough kids. I always have. I've always had a heart for those kids that came from a rough background. And, because they're good kids.
Good kids.
Good kids. They really are. And they just have, they've had parents or unfortunately people that have been in positions around them that have made bad choices. And so they've learned bad habits from that. But that doesn't mean that they're bad kids. And so just teaching them to make better choices and to not follow in those footsteps, and to, so it doesn't become generation after generation following that same pattern.
And see, but children are not born as bad kids.
No.
Children should be raised. The environment, the people around them determines. They're like sponges.
Correct. Yeah.
They absorb, and if you place them in a negative surroundings where they're not loved or praised or protected and taken care of, they often grow up to be, bad individuals.
Yeah, correct.
Bad adults. So it's important when they're that young that you surround those children with the right background, the right love, care, comfort, protection, which I believe all children are entitled to.
Yes.
So what happened when you have a son?
Correct. Uh-huh.
How old is he?
Well, we have a biological son who's currently 6, but when we got our children, he was 2. And then my husband was married previously, and so he had a son as well from a previous marriage that was 5. So we got our 3 kids. They were 5, 9, and 11 when we got our 3 kids. And
were
then,
they siblings?
Yes, they were all siblings. All had the
Wonderful.
same mother and same father.
That is wonderful.
Uh-huh.
And they're not separated, but they're together.
Yes, and so we definitely became a very blended family with our 3 that we added.
So, one of your own, one of your husbands, and 3 adopted.
Right, correct.
What are their names and ages?
Do I have to say that? I don't know what to do. I'm sorry.
If
that's okay, just
that's
because their
fine.
biological parents are in the area, and so
Yes,
it could
that's
be a
okay.
safety issue if that's okay.
Fine.
All
That
right,
is
thank
fine.
you. I appreciate
Sorry
that.
for
That's
me
all right.
asking, because sometimes children like to be recognized, and if you sit and watch the show
Right.
with them, and they say, "Wow, you know,
Right.
I was on TV and my name
Right.
was mentioned."
Yeah.
That's why. I
Exactly.
didn't. But the ages are. You can say the ages.
Yeah, I can certainly say the ages. They are now 9, 14, and 15 is our 3 adopted. So we range from 6 all the way up to 15 now.
That's hands full.
It is. It's a
Hands
full-time job
full.
for
It's
sure.
a full-time job. I mean, raising, 2 of my own, I know there were challenges.
Uh-huh.
And now when you're raising one of your own, one of your husbands, and 3 adopted, they come from all 3 different backgrounds.
Yes.
You must be an amazing woman. If
Well,
you're-
and call us crazy, believe it or not, but we felt like God is calling us again and tugging on our hearts again to actually go back into the system and get more kids to foster and then possibly adopt as well. So
when I was reading your bio, it just came to my mind, the Chick-fil-A owner, Trudy, forgot his, doesn't come to me this last name, but he does such an amazing job. He has children's home,
oh wow,
and he's known as Grandpa Trudy.
that's amazing.
And every day he says he makes time. I believe he's based in Atlanta, so where he goes to the home, the children come sit on his lap, he reads the Bible stories to them, he tucks them to bed, and sometimes the stories he described in his book, Eat More Chicken, that's his book, and you need to have a calling for this. It's not an easy ministry.
No, it's definitely not an easy ministry. You got to understand these children, it's deep rooted, especially the older that they get, the more trauma that they've experienced, and the more that they have learned to emulate what their biological parents did. And so to break those habits and those patterns, the older that they get, it is difficult because it is not what they're used to. So they come from a biological home that's very dysfunctional, and then they come into a home that's loving and secure and structured, and they fight against that because it's not what they're used to.
Especially the discipline part of it.
Yeah, the discipline part of it, and the authority part of it too, because normally in the biological homes, the biological parents they would use whatever they did, they would use the children. It wasn't that the parents sacrificed for the children, it was that the children sacrificed for the parent. Yes. And so they see any person that's in an authority figure as a person who is selfish, who is self-seeking. And so to try to flip that discipline around and for them to understand that it's in their best interest is very hard. It takes a lot of patience. It's very difficult for them to get that to grasp that and to get that understanding that that's what's occurring. So and you have to be very explicit whenever you talk to them and all of that and really dig inside of them a whole lot, and ask a lot of questions and really try to get to some of those underlying feelings that are behind the behaviors.
And one other thing, sometimes there are foster parents, they're not fostering the children for the right reasons.
Correct.
Sometimes it's the money and the benefits they get from the state.
Yes.
Is a reason, not for the welfare and benefit of raising good citizens is not, and that is sad.
It is very sad. Our 3 children that we had, for instance, they came into care in March and we got them in August. We were their 3rd placement from March to August of the same year.
That is traumatic.
It is extremely traumatic on these kids. And not only that, but the foster homes that they were in prior to coming to us were the type of foster homes that you were talking about. My daughter came and her fingers and her toes were nearly purple because she has eczema really bad. And they did not take her to the dermatologist, which is free of charge for them to take her, and did not take her to get treated. They were putting Vaseline on it. And then my son, his glasses were broken, and they'd been broken for over a month.
So he could not see properly in school?
No, he could not see properly at school, and he has a very strong prescription. So it's not like it was, you know, just a
little bit.
Just a little bit. I mean, it's a very strong prescription. He keeps his glasses.
Could not see.
No, could not see. And then, you know, one of the foster moms that had my daughter, she told her, she said, "I'm here to put food on the table and put clothes on your back, and that's it." So you're right, there are people that are in it for the wrong reasons. And that's part of the reason why that I believe God's called me into, you know, with Benchmark Family Services down in the League City area, is that, you know, we're very careful about who we recruit.
And where you place those children.
And where we place those children. We make sure that we recruit people that are in it for the right reasons, and make sure that we place kids in good homes.
It is so important.
Yeah.
Because they are traumatized in the first place. That's why they're in the system.
Exactly.
And then every home they place, I believe the children also hope this is my permanent home. This is going to be my mom and dad. They're going to take care of us, and then they're crushed again and
then
again.
They're crushed again and again. I always like to think of it as like tape. You know, when the children are taken out of their biological homes, they go to their first caregiver that they're placed in, the first home, foster home, and they're looking to attach. You know, and so just like a piece of tape, they're looking to attach to that caregiver. And if that caregiver is a good caregiver and they're there permanently, then it's a good attachment. But every single time, let's say that it's not a good attachment and that caregiver rejects them at some point because of their behavior or things that they've done, well, then they go to the next home, and that piece of tape isn't as sticky as it was before. The first time. And so every single time that they change placements, it gets less, and they have less and less of an ability to attach. And so often what happens, unfortunately, is once parental rights have been terminated on these children and they are free for adoption, because they were put in foster homes that were not very good to begin with, then they have a really, really difficult time attaching to those adoptive parents.
And adjusting and trusting.
Yes, all of those things.
And then those kind of reasons would manifest in bad behavior in school, respecting authorities, properties, and then we have a problem child.
Yes, exactly.
They become harder to adopt.
They do become harder to adopt, much harder to adopt. The more placements that children are in, the harder it is. And that's why I really try to talk to people that have a heart for adoption, because there's a lot of people out there that do, but one of the things they say is they're afraid to do foster care because they're afraid that their hearts will break if the children go back and they don't think they could handle it. And so I talk to them about having that heart for adoption and getting those kids on the front line in foster care. You know, where you're in it for the right reason, where you love those children.
Can that be mentioned when you're fostering, that if this is a right fit, I would like to adopt this child? Can that be mentioned earlier on?
Yes, and we always encourage our foster parents, always, if they are a foster to adopt, to go to all of the court cases, to go to, you know, stand in front of the judge, to let the CPS caseworker know that they are interested in adoption long term. And so when they do that, then, you know, the judge looks at it a little bit more as, you know, that
maybe permanent.
That it may be, you know, this may be what is in the best interest of the child. So we definitely encourage all of our foster parents to be very, very involved in the lives of the children.
Do they have some kind of classes they go to, these parents, these foster parents, like, so they know what is expected and what they? Some of them it's because lack of knowledge.
Yeah, definitely. We at our agency, we have 5 classes that they have to attend, and during those classes we talk about attachment, we talk about the behaviors that they're going to see, how to you know, combat those behaviors, some things that work with children that come from traumatic backgrounds and things that don't, you know, because what they're going to do generally is especially if they have their own children, is they're going to go to that idea that, okay, I'm going to do with them like I did with my own children. I'm going to discipline them, I'm going to talk to them, all of these things as if they were their own children, but often those strategies and those things don't work because these children have been through traumatic experiences. You got to think, what kind of discipline can you do to a child who's already been through the worst? You take their tablet away, they don't have, their parents were taken away, you know? They've grown up in such a rough environment that those things are not very effective. Right. And so we talk to them a whole lot about getting to the heart of the kids. And really that's what I've found personally in talking to other foster parents has been the most effective, is not the punishment of taking things away or doing things like that. It's more positive reinforcement when they do the right things, and then it's more talking about getting to their heart, you know, getting to the reason why that we do these things, and talking about the future and how if they don't change these behaviors, what's going to happen in the future to them. And that seems to be more effective.
So this Benchmark agency, does it only do in the League City area, or is it in Houston?
It's in Houston as well. We actually have a Houston office as well, just right off of 290, up there, 290 and 610.
And tell our viewers their phone number, contact information. We will put it on our screen, but you know, just mention your website.
Great, great. It's Benchmark Family Services, and if you go to a website, it's benchmarkfamilyservices.org, and you can look it up, and you can get in contact with either the Houston office there, or you can get in contact with the League City office as well from the website.
So are you full-time working at Benchmark since all the kids are in school, or
yes,
just part-time?
Yeah, I'm actually the director in League City. So yeah, so I am. I'm working full-time, sometimes a little bit above full-time right now, since we just opened in October in League City. So we're fairly new, and so, you know, it takes extra time when you're starting something.
You started new, it's good.
Right.
How well are the kids adjusted now?
They're doing great. Are you talking about the kids, the foster kids that we have in care? Or are you talking about my own personal children?
Both.
Both. All right, sounds good. The foster kids are actually doing great. It's amazing. We are up to 30 children that are in the agency right now, and they are all in fabulous homes, absolutely great homes, and they're doing great. You know, a lot of them came in, you know, with very, you know, traumatized and traumatic experiences, and just watching them change and watching them flourish in these homes is amazing. And my own personal kids, they're doing very well. It was adjustment for them, for me to go back to work full time. It was. But it was a good thing in that it allowed my husband and my children to grow a very close relationship, where they were more bonded with me. So it's been good in that respect to see them, you know, grow and become closer.
So your oldest is in high school?
Yes, she sure is. She's a freshman this year.
Wow.
So.
Yeah, that's an amazing story. And those children are blessed because they are placed in your home.
Oh, well, thank you very much.
And they're blessed, and I think they would appreciate it. Maybe not the teenage years, but when they're in their 20s, they would appreciate what you and your husband has done. And it was a sacrifice. It was not easy.
No, it definitely wasn't. I mean, they're absolutely amazing children. And the neat thing about when you get foster children in their lives, and I also always talk to my foster parents about it, is that God uses them to grow and change you as well. You know, because if there's anything that you haven't dealt with from your childhood or past experiences, or that God wants to heal in you, they'll often find those and they'll trigger them. And so then, you know, often you'll have to go back and deal with some things that you didn't even know were there for healing.
So the childhood trauma that you had, these children were able to heal you from that and move forward.
Yeah, and they bring some of it out that you thought, you know, because I went to therapy for years in order to in order to deal with the trauma that I had, that I you know, faced as a child. But yeah, having them in your home, they will trigger some of those things in you, and
then you deal with it.
And then you deal with it as it surfaces. Yeah.
See, that's amazing, and that's a different part of, we never think about. We always think about how we help the children and we nurture the children and we give them the right advice, but how they help you is mostly never talked about.
Right.
Talked about. And special needs children, are they special needs children?
Oh, there most definitely are, and there's a huge need for families that will take special needs children. Huge need, because they do require, you know, more care, and especially on the adoption end, honestly. There is on the foster end as well, but on the adoption end, because a lot of people think, oh, I couldn't do that, that's extra, you know, it's more of a challenge and responsibility and all of that, but yes.
Is there any financial help or available for people who adopt special needs children, because their medical expenses and, you know, psychological treatment and stuff needs more finances?
Right.
Is there any help available?
And I am so glad you asked that question, because there's financial help available for almost all of the groups. If you adopt a child that's a Caucasian child that's over the age of 6, a single child, if you adopt a minority child over the age of 2, or if you adopt any sibling group, it does not matter the race, it does not matter the age. The government gives you monthly assistance to help provide for them even after they're adopted.
Oh, see, most people don't know that.
No, they don't know
because
that.
they think when in foster care, yes, it's provided.
Mm-hmm.
Once you're adopted, there's zero benefits.
Yeah, actually for a basic child, it's $400 a month per child is what they get even after adoption. And not only that, but their medical is all paid for until they're 18. Their college is all paid for.
Wow.
Yeah, exactly. And then you also get a tax liability. I think it's a little more than when we adopted, but when we adopted it was $12,500 per child to be used up to 5 years. So against your tax liability. So that allows you also to be able to, you know,
Like you write it off.
you write it off, yeah.
Just like, you know.
Yeah, just like they don't give
a tax deduction.
like a tax deduction, exactly. So if you owe taxes at the end of the year or against your tax liability,
Yeah,
is
yeah.
basically what it is.
See, a lot of people do not know that.
No, they don't. And, you know, because good people that are interested in adoption, you know, that are financially responsible and stable and all of that, the first thing that they think is, oh, I couldn't afford it. I couldn't afford it.
I had a couple on the show who said the same thing, and I did not know that, you know, we have to have a certain level of income between both of us in order to adopt.
Yeah, I don't know, because even when we adopted our kids, we didn't even have to pay the attorney for the adoption. The state pays the attorney even for them to be adopted. So it literally cost us absolutely nothing financially in order to be able to adopt our children. And there's tons of children out there. I mean, we get them from, of course, they have to, you know, they start in foster care. But, you know, there are infants in foster care that we've picked up from the hospital out in Galveston that were in the NICU unit, you know, all the way up to, you know, children that they have what's called extended care at this point, and those are kids that have aged out of the system, that are over the age of 18, that have graduated from high school, are interested in going into college, and they're in extended care.
See, that's another thing.
Yeah.
Because most of the people, including me, think once they're 18, these children are just on their own.
Yeah.
But they're not. There's
They don't
extended
have
care.
to be. There's what's called extended care. And you can have, you know, host parents that have them that still get, you know, financial assistance for having these children live in their home. They're a little bit more independent at that point. So a lot of times, you know, your older people, retired people who, you know, want to give back and want something, this would be perfect for them.
Companionship.
Perfect to have these children come and live in their home, and they would help these children figure out how to fill out college applications, you know, how to get a job, you know, how to budget. Teach them just life skills about how to be able to make it on their own once they, you know, have aged out of care. So yeah, there's tons of opportunities for anybody that wanted to come in to make a difference at all. There's other things that are called respite care. And what that means is where we have the regular foster parents that take care of the children long-term and full-time. Respite care are people who are just licensed to take care of the kids on the weekends. So if a mom and dad wanted to go for a date night or a date weekend, then they could go to these respite care homes and they would keep them for the weekend. Yes. And babysitters, holy cow, we need babysitters that are over the age of 18 because they have to have certain qualifications in order to be able to babysit the kids. So, you know, we need babysitters as well. And that's also something that's very short term. So yes.
It's a lot of volunteering opportunities.
A lot of volunteering opportunities, and not necessarily even volunteering, because you get paid for respite care.
Or you get paid for.
And you would get paid as a babysitter as well. So just people that are willing to step up and just do it.
I think we need to do a workshop.
I agree. That would be great.
You know, we need to do a workshop like how can these children be adopted? And one of the questions that I asked, can they pick and choose, like if I want to adopt a child or two child, I can say, I want a boy who is, you know, let's say Hispanic. I want a little girl who is Hispanic. I want siblings, age group, all that can be mentioned?
Every single bit of that can be completely mentioned about what you're interested in. I always encourage my foster parents, though, to keep an open mind, for sure.
Yes, but I'm talking adoption.
Yes, but even adoption, you know, even as far as that goes, you know, because God often has different ideas than
Different
what
plans.
we have.
I like
you know.
what you said. I had a certain criteria, certain age group of how many kids I'm going to adopt, but God had
Oh,
different
yeah,
plans.
you know.
You know, I am talking to, I do counseling. I do
Okay.
marriage counselings, and this couple does not have any children. They're from the Indian origin, and I'm telling them, there are so many children
There are
out
so
there.
many children.
And you know, they both are good people. They have good this thing, and this stress of not having children and going through all those fertility treatments, and it's hard. And I said, you know, sometimes you adopt a child and you forget about it, and boom, you get pregnant. It can happen.
Oh, yeah.
And I've known people that has happened to.
We actually have 2 different foster parents, believe it or not, that were not able to have children and came and were licensed and all of that, and now they both have their own biological, you know, they both got pregnant. So
Yeah, so I was telling them that, you know, Hispanic children, they look just like us, dark hair and dark eyes and, you know, skin tone. And I said, there are a lot of Hispanic children out there to be adopted.
yes,
And so I said, you can ask them. They said, no, we can't. We just have to take what they give. And I said, I don't think
No,
so.
that's not accurate
I
at
don't
all.
think so. And the reason I'm talking about this because I know them and their parents, they watch my show.
okay, great.
Great.
Well, hopefully they'll be giving us a call then.
Hopefully they will. And you know, I'm going to put you on Facebook
Wonderful.
and Benchmark where they can talk, and unless they at least come and talk. And then there's this fear. What if we are not good parents? What if we cannot handle them? These children have they have this phobia. They have this
Yeah.
fear of everything out there. And I said, if one child fostering them does not work for you, you can always say, I'm having a hard time relating to this child, or this child is having a hard time understanding us. I said, they'll take back and you can get another child.
Yeah, and we try to, because of the attachment of the children, we try to be very careful not to do that a lot.
A lot is bad.
You know, a lot is very, very bad.
Yes.
But with people who are not quite sure of what they want or what they're interested in, or you know, or if they can handle it, we usually try to get them to do respite care first.
First, yeah.
Yes. So yeah, exactly. So they're just taking the children on the weekend, but they have a permanent home where they're at, so they can get kind of more of a feel and decide if this is what.
If they've never had children in their life.
Yes, if this is what they can handle, if this is good for them, and that's kind of how we approach that situation.
So that also is very good. That way they get a little experience.
Exactly.
And
Prior
still-
to making that commitment of having a child in their home.
of that decision.
Yeah.
And I would say, if you look at a percentage wise, about 80% of the time it works. There's only a small case, maybe there's a problem, you know.
Yeah.
Maybe a child needs psychological. I mean, I've had amazing children that were adopted.
Yes.
Amazing children. Some of them are adopted by family members like grandmother or great aunt. You know, I interviewed a lady who's adopted 3 generations. She's in her late 70s. That's one of them that I said, my God, if this is what it takes to look this young, you know. Yeah, she did. She adopted her son. I mean, it's her son now. Then she adopted, her son had a child with a lady who had nothing, young woman who had nothing to do with the child. So she took that child in, generational or whatever. Now that child was only 17 and she had a baby.
Oh, wow.
But you know, this grandma said, you know, she was a teacher also, and she said when she was a principal actually in New York somewhere, she wanted to travel and everything. She had raised her kids, and this daughter of hers was involved in some kind of drugs, and she basically put the baby and said, this is your grandchild, and she left.
Oh, wow. We currently have some foster parents right now that they have 4 children in their home, and they had the same thing. You know, they're older. Both of their daughters are in high school, you know, and they were expecting to be done shortly, and you know, and that they would travel and do all of those things, and you know, and God had very different plans for their lives, and now they have 4 little ones that are in their home currently.
Oh yeah, and she is not complaining one bit. She's so excited, and this young man, you know, she's got back. You know, he is going to college on full scholarship. Oprah Winfrey or somebody like that sponsored him. He's got 4 colleges to choose from, fully paid. And she said, you know what, That's the greatest joy than going to Europe,
Yeah.
walking the French Riviera or whatever. This is the joy. But
Oh,
like,
yeah.
it is a calling. It's a, I would say it's a dedication.
It was, you know, and I tell my you know, parents when they come into the classes, I'm like, this is one of the most difficult things that you'll ever do, but it's also one of the most rewarding things you'll ever do. To know that you played such a significant role in a child's life, that if you had not stepped up and you were not the person who, you know, took that calling, that who knows where this child would be.
Yep. You know, Amanda, again, you are an amazing mother.
Oh, well, thank
Amazing
you.
woman and amazing mother. And I know your children will call you blessed, you know, for what you are doing. And I just want to let my viewers know that there is always a choice. There's always, you know, somebody out there, you know, who wants to step up and do something. And if you're thinking, you know, hey, what can I do? You know, I don't have a purpose, I don't have a calling, you know, be a respect.
Yeah, respite provider.
Yes, on a weekend.
babysitter.
A babysitter. And not only that, you know, if you need some extra income, these jobs are amazing and wonderful, but they also pay you. So, you know, I am so glad you tuned into us today, and thank you for watching us. And like I tell you, week after week, keep walking in the amazing grace of God. And remember, amazing grace is the bridge, you know, it's that builds the gap between man and God.